Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So it's Victory Monday yet again for the third week in a row. Tell the Truth Monday as well. We'll get to a little bit of that. But this is all about the 42-14 shellacking of the Arizona Cardinals that sends the Commanders to 3-1 and first place, sole possession of first place in the NFC East. This is an amazing feeling. I can't really say it any other way. And so many questions about, fans wanting to know, is this real? Is it okay to feel this way? Feel all of it. Feel every ounce of excitement and allow your brain to wander. I'm not a P word guy this early in the year, but who am I to tell you how far to let your imaginations run wild, right? I'm just telling you what I'm not going to participate in, okay? I wouldn't go that far, but I think we're the best team in the NFC East, and everything that I'm saying is prefaced with right now, okay? We're the best team in the NFC East right now. Now, I think moving forward, when this is all said and done, we've got the best quarterback in this division. Like, Jaden Daniels is one of them ones. I've said this already. And the last 2 weeks are proof that this guy is just different. There's so many stats out there about what this offense has done over the first month of the season. And really, you could exclude the first game because we really weren't polished and we weren't playing well. You could really exclude the first game against Tampa. Just in the last 3 weeks, really the last 2 weeks, these numbers are eye-popping. But you have to include the first game, and the numbers are just stunning. And there's so many statistical anomalies that this team has set forth. I can't even keep up with all of them. It's just too many. We're the only team in the league right now. Well, there's been 200-yard passing, 200-yard rushing games this season. All right, 4 total in the NFL. 2 other teams have done it once. We've done it twice. We've done it twice already. All right? There's 4 total in the league, and we've done it twice. I mean, I could do the Jaden Daniels thing, but I've already done that on like 3 different programs already. How about the first time that as an organization, as a team, we haven't scored 38 plus points in back-to-back games since 1991. We talked about that briefly last night. Someone brought it up. And someone, it seems like, is bringing up some new thing that we haven't done or hasn't been done since XYZ. And it's just amazing. Like, my head is spinning. But not too fast to where I'm not aware of everything that's going on. I think we're the best team, not only in the NFC, but I think we have a chance to be one of the better teams in the conference. And I said this earlier on the day after reaction. Go find me a better quarterback in the NFC than Jaden Daniels. I mean, think about it for a second. We've talked about this. We had this conversation for the last 2 years or so about how top-heavy the AFC is with all of the best quarterbacks really residing on that side of the bracket. It's Mahomes, it's Burrow, it's Allen, it's Jackson. They're all over there, right? CJ Stroud, if you want to throw him in that mix already in his young NFL career. They're all over there on that side of the bracket. Find me a quarterback on our side of the bracket that's better than Jaden Daniels. I'll wait. let's get into the keys from yesterday's game, and then we'll talk about some things that need to be cleaned up. As this is also Tell the Truth Monday. I get it. We won 42-14, and when you win like that, it's easy to just sweep, 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 sweep. It's easy to sweep stuff under the rug. We're not going to do that here, though. We're going to talk about everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? But let's start with the keys to the game and how we fared in that department. And we start with the offensive keys. Last week, it was a clean sweep. They checked off every single box offensively. Pretty hard pressed to say that they wouldn't do the same this week after they increased the point total from 38 a week ago to 42 this week. 80 points scored in the last 2 weeks by the Commanders. We've started a new streak after having our consecutive touchdown or consecutive scoring drive streak ended at 16. We've started a brand new streak, right? I think it's at 5 now. Field goal before the half, and we scored on all 4 of our second half possessions. So, yeah, that's a thing too. But my first offensive key was stay true to who you are. I thought this was vital to our success and has been over this 3-game heater, and it's going to continue to be, I think, one of the things that allows us to stay grounded, stay balanced, and ultimately be one of the hardest offenses to stop. I just told you that we're the only team in the league to have multiple 200-yard passing, 200-yard rushing games. You know, again, those two things happening simultaneously in the same game. 200 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. Not talking about having 200 yards on the ground and then still not having 200 yards passing. It's hard to do both in this league. If you're having that type of day on the ground, then you're probably not throwing it as much, right? We're doing both. We're doing both. And if you got 200 on passing and 200 rushing, that means you're over 400 total yards of offense. That means you're killing it. We've done that twice this season. But us running the football is imperative to our success. It is our identity. I talked about this before the season started about wanting to establish an identity. Who are we? What do we stand for? What do you know you're going to get when you play the Commanders? I can't tell you that every single week the run game is going to be ultra effective, but what I can tell you is that you're going to get a heavy dose of it, and that is important. We didn't run it super effectively against Tampa Bay in week 1. They have a stout run defense, and it wasn't the greatest day in the world rushing the football, but we still stayed with it. And Jaden's legs were really big in that week 1 contest. We devoured the Giants on the ground. Brian Robinson set a career high in that game. We rushed for over 200 yards in that game. We were spectacular on the ground. That's one of the biggest reasons why we even won that game, right? The following week against Cincinnati, not so much. Brian Robinson, 16 carries, 31 yards. He didn't have it on the ground, but Eckler did, and Jaden was also effective on the ground. And so we still were over 100 yards rushing in the game, and we still were effective on the ground. But most importantly, we never stopped running the football. And then obviously in this game, the run game was dynamic. You had Brian Robinson going over 100 yards in this game, 21 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown. You had our backup running back, Jeremy McNichols, 8 carries, 68 yards, and 2 scores. So that's the second consecutive game that all 3 rushers had a touchdown, which again is hard to do when your quarterback is also tossing a touchdown. Or last week, in the case of last week, 2 touchdown passes. Eckler had a touchdown run. Brian Robinson had a touchdown run. Jaden Daniels had a touchdown run all last week. So you do it again this week, and it's just amazing to see how effective, efficient we've been in the red zone since the debacle against the Giants in week 2. You have a touchdown for Brian Robinson. You have 2 touchdowns for Jeremy McNichols, and you have another rushing touchdown for Jaden Daniels, in addition to his passing touchdown from this game to Terry McLaurin. So we stayed true to who we are. We had more rushes than passing attempts. That's the way it should be every single game, and that's going to continue to keep us, I think, balanced and unpredictable and hard to stop. Next offensive key. So obviously we got a check there and a point. Next offensive key. was convert on 50% or more of third downs. I thought this game was won on third downs, both sides of the football. And we'll talk about third downs on both sides because that was a part of the key to victory on both sides. But obviously, when you go 9 of 12, I'm trying to do the math in my head. 9 of 12 is probably going to put you in the 80% range. 9 of 12 is 75%. I just did the math. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. So that's 75%, man. Like if you're converting at a 70, you're not going to lose very many games in the NFL. Converting at a 75% clip on third downs. It's what happened to us in week 1 against Tampa. They converted 9 of 13. That's 71%. You're not beating anybody doing that, and you're going to give up a bunch of points more likely than not unless that team really bogs down in the red zone or has a bunch of turnovers or something went amiss, right? Because if they're scoring points, they're going to have many opportunities to do so if they're going 9 of 13 on third downs. We went 9 of 12 on third downs. There's no way that we weren't going to score points if that's what we're doing on third downs, right? So obviously we got to check there, and we were fantastic on third downs in this ball game, and another huge reason why we were able to amass a 40 burger in this game. Obviously, we got to check in a point there. Next offensive key: protect the Duke and finish drives with points. So I was a little bit lenient here because we were just so fantastic finishing drives with points. I mean, we scored 42 points. It's the first time we've scored that many points in 8 years. It's the first time we've scored over 40 in 4 years. So, yeah, like it's a pretty big deal, right? We haven't had this many points since 2020 in a game, or at least eclipsed the 40-point mark when we had 41 against Dallas. We haven't scored 42 since like 2016, I believe. You got to go back to one of those Kirk Cousins games, right? So it's been quite a while since we've been this impactful offensively. And so although we didn't protect the Duke completely, we did have our first turnover of the season. We were able to offset that by creating a turnover of our own, which was great. So we're still +1 in the differential. Yay for us. And when you finish 9 of your 7 drives with touchdowns or scores, I'll just say, because we had 5 touchdowns and 2 field goals. When you finish 7 of your 9 drives with points, it's hard for me to knock you down a peg or take away any points, man, despite having the 1 turnover in the game. It's a full check mark. It's a full point. I mean, they were awesome once again, finishing drives, right? Just ridiculous. And then lastly, keep being explosive was the last offensive key. 4 or more plays of 20+ yards. And again, I was a bit lenient here because while we didn't have 4 plays of 20 yards or more technically in the game, we had 3. You had, I think, a 20-some-odd yard run by Jeremy McNichols on that first touchdown run for him. And then you had an OZ play that went for over 20 yards out of the backfield late in the game that set up the final touchdown by McNichols. And then you had the big pass interference penalty. That thing had to be every bit of 40-some-odd yards that set up the first touchdown after half. So that's 3 plays of 20+. But we also had like 3 plays of 18, 17, 15. Terry's touchdown, I think, was like 15 yards. And, McCaffrey's catch was like 17 or 18 yards. And Noah Brown had like a 17 or 18-yard grab. So, when you look at it from that perspective, there were enough chunk plays to really help facilitate the success that we had on offense. So I would term that this was another successful, explosive, dynamic game. Again, when you score 42 points, I think that goes without saying. So all 4 of the offensive keys were met. And so we got 4 points on that side. Now let's go to the defensive side of the football. We have not had more than, I think, 1 or 1.5 points in any given game this season on the defensive side, maybe 2 max. So let's see if they can top that here. Contain Kyler Murray and the explosives. Yeah, I mean, this was a big one, like, because Kyler Murray is so dynamic. He can escape and extend and make things happen. He's so dynamic once the play breaks down. And for us to essentially render him powerless in that regard, that's one of his superpowers, and he wasn't able to utilize that superpower successfully. That's big, man. And that's really big. And they only had two big plays in this game. One was a James Conner run for 20. The other was a catch by Michael Wilson, I think, for like 20, 22 yards, something like that. So we limited the explosives. I really thought Kyler Murray was going to have a field day on our defense, and I really thought that he would make those plays that make you go, wow, like, damn it, man. There were no such plays. I mean, that was the most shocking thing of yesterday's performance was just how dominant the defense was. Like, call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. Kyler Murray looked flummoxed. And again, I'm not quite sure what that stems from, whether it was a great defensive plan by Joe Witt Jr. and excellent execution by the players, or did Cliff Kingsbury say to them, hey, this is what you have to do to Kyler. I talked about this on a different show, but I listened to Dorrance Armstrong after the game talk about they were going to force him left. Don't let him out of the pocket to his right. I've seen him make crazy throws down the field, rolling to his left, falling out of bounds, off balance, and still make a crazy throw 50 yards downfield. So sending him left gives you a better chance of slowing him down, but he can hurt you left or right. But he wasn't able to go anywhere, left or right, in this game, And I don't know why. It was crazy watching that. So we definitely contained Kyler Murray and the explosive plays, and that was a big one going into the game, and they took care of that one. Slow down James Conner and the Cards rushing attack. This is a big no. The Cardinals totaled 181 yards rushing in this game. James Conner, on just 18 carries, went over the century mark, 105 yards. And, their rookie Benson came in and was gashing us. DeMarcado had some good hits in the run game. And when you win by 28 points, the other team should not, unless there's a 90 or 70 or 80-yard run somewhere in there should not be 181 yards given up on the ground when you're throttling a team the way that we did in this game. And it's not like we jumped on them in the second quarter, and at halftime it was 28-7 or 31-7 at the half, and they had to abandon the run completely. That wasn't the case. We didn't really separate ourselves in this game until the late stages of the third into the fourth. With that said, though, the run game should have been less of a factor when you take a 27-7 lead, which is what we did in the third quarter. It shouldn't be as big of a factor when you take a 35-14 lead as we did in the fourth quarter, early stages of the fourth. And yet they still ran the football and had success. And it is a problem. And it may not have been a problem in this game because we were so dominant in other, facets of the game. But what happens when you play the Baltimore Ravens in 2 weeks? You see what the type of time that Derrick Henry's on. He back on that king shit. We don't clean this up, it will be a bloodbath. You see what Saquon, look, I can talk all the shit I want about the Eagles and their struggles. By the time we see them, they'll be plenty healthy. And Saquon is right now foot on gas. And he is killing it right now. And if he gets a seam, you can forget about it. And that's all we have are seams up the middle of our defense in terms of stopping the run. It's just seam after seam after seam. Something has to give there. Somehow they have to get better. And I don't, right now, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. We're gonna watch the film on this one and kind of see if we can figure it out. But it's just mind-boggling that we can't stop the run. And it's not just that we can't stop the run. We're getting gashed by everyone. Doesn't matter how you were running the football, where you are from a rushing standpoint in the league. If you play us, you're gonna have one of your best rushing days of the season. You're guaranteed to do that. It's ridiculous right now. Utterly ridiculous. So no points there, obviously. Next defensive key, stiffen in the red zone and create a turnover. So we got a half point here because we did not stiffen in the red zone. The Cardinals scored on all 3 of their red zone possessions. And so, I think they had 2 red zone possessions and they scored a touchdown on both of them. So there was no stiffening in the red zone. They were able to find the red zone and find the end zone once they found the red zone. They had to get to 4th down to do it. I think both times, but they still did it. But we did create a turnover. So it gives us a chance there. And like I said, it negated the turnover that we had earlier in the ball game. And I love the fact that we were aggressive and that we were looking to get the ball out. We forced 3 fumbles in this game, only recovered 1, but that's a start, right? Half the battle is getting the football out in the first place. And we were able to do that in this game. So that's an encouraging sign moving forward. So half a point there. Didn't stiffen in the red zone, but they did create a turnover in the game. Ball is life, right? And then lastly, hold the Cardinals to less than 60% on 3rd downs. I told you in the moment, this is a very low bar that I'm setting. 60% is ridiculous, but that's where we were going into the game. We're going to see that number come down dramatically. How far can we get out of dead last and in the basement on 3rd down defense with the 4 of 11 performance that we turned in? It'd be nice. That's sub 40%. So it'd be nice for that, total to come down into the 40s somewhere where we could party with some of the other teams in the league and feel like we're not this horrendous, laughing stock of a defense on 3rd downs. We'll see how far this allows us to drop in terms of percentage points and if we can get out of the basement of the worst teams on 3rd downs defensively in the league. Probably not, but this is the start. 4 of 11. Very, very good. So proud of them for not only hitting the goal set for them, which was, 60% or less, but, obliterating it by, holding the Cardinals to less than 40% on 3rd downs in this game. Hadn't seen it all year. Now we know they're capable. That was one time. Do it again. Do it again. Right? So on the defensive side, 2.5 points. You couple that with the offensive 4 points, 6.5 of a total possible 8 points. That should win you most games. 6.5 will win you most games. They were excellent. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that. That's why the result was what it was at 42-14. So looking forward to seeing what they do this week. We're going to continue to enjoy first place, 3-1 atop the division. We'll go around the NFC East tomorrow here on CNN and talk about where we sit, where the other teams around us sit, and what this week could potentially be in terms of creating some distance between us and maybe the rest of the division. But we got to handle our business, and I'm not too big on overly concerning myself with what others are doing. Now we're in the number 1 spot. So if we just win, if we continue to take care of business, no one can overtake us in the division. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to come take it from us. So I like where we sit. But let's transition to in other news. And we heard from head coach DQ on Victory Monday. Celebrate! So we'll hear what he had to say here in a bit. But, I love on Mondays to go over the snap count from the previous game. And this was a big one because I got so swept up in just watching the game that I did not do a very good job of looking to see who was in when, how much so-and-so was playing. So didn't see how many times Forbes was on the field, didn't see how much Noah Igbenogany was on the field, didn't see how much Mike Sainristil was on the field. So I had questions, right? Sainristil looked like he was pretty, chill over on the sidelines. I wasn't sure if he was playing or not. Somebody was like, man, he started at outside corner. I'm like, okay, well, that's good news because I don't want them giving up on the young fella. And this staff doesn't strike me as a group that would give up on a guy like Mike Sainristil, especially if they wouldn't give up on Emmanuel Forbes. So I maybe was in my head a bit, but they played around with the combinations. And look, I don't know what the hell they did, and the film will tell us the story, but the shit worked. Whatever it was, do it again, right? So I wanted to see that. And then I wanted to see Brandon Coleman and, the snap counts with him and Cornelius Lucas, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, see what's going on with Johnny Newton. So there were some interesting numbers that I wanted to see. And so let's take a look at the snap counts from Sunday's game in week 4 versus the Arizona Cardinals. We start on the offensive side of the football. 72 total snaps in the game offensively. As you can see, every offensive lineman, with the exception of Nick Allegretti, played all 72. He left the game late with an ankle injury, scored on that final touchdown drive, and did not return. Obviously, we didn't have the ball again after that. So he only missed 3 plays, but he did leave the game with an ankle injury. And so his status remains up in the air. So then you see Terry McLaurin leading, as he has, I think, every game this season, and every non-quarterback and offensive lineman in snaps. And then you go down to Cornelius Lucas and Brandon Coleman, and so they're essentially splitting snaps. I think it was 1 more snap than Brandon Coleman last week. It's 2 more this week, so they're still on 51-49. Lucas is still starting. I wonder how long it's going to take and what they need to see from Brandon Coleman to feel comfortable enough to have him overtake Cornelius Lucas in terms of snaps and ultimately in terms of starting at left tackle. I wonder what they need to see. I'm not rushing the process. It's working right now, so keep doing what you're doing, right? Coach said that Ben Sinnott played his most snaps of the season in this game because they knew it was going to be a big, play action fake, tight ends, getting out of the backfield, blocking, that sort of thing. And he did play 30 snaps in this game, which is a career high for him. So McNichols, 27 snaps for him, taking a little bit of the pressure off of Brian Robinson Jr., which was good to see. Olamide Zaccheaus, 18 snaps. Same with De'Ami Brown. His number continues to dwindle. He was one of the highest snap total guys in weeks 1 and 2, and that number has considerably decreased since the arrival of Noah Brown. And so everything else kind of checks out here in terms of snap counts and what we expect to see. But Cornelius Lucas still hanging tough at left tackle. Coleman continuing to get better. And again, we didn't call his name at all. That's a good thing if you're a Commanders fan. Now we go to the defensive side of the ball and the snap counts there. 59 total snaps in the game for the Commanders defensively. And Jeremy Chin, Frankie Louvu, Benjamin St-Juste were the ones to play all 59 snaps. For the first time this season, Bobby Wagner wasn't among the leaders in snaps on the defensive side of the football, which is a good thing. He shouldn't be playing all of the snaps, as he gets up there in age. But he's so reliable, it's hard to take him off the field. And so it's good to see Jeremy Chin. I thought this was Jeremy Chin by far and away his best game as a Commander. Louvu was everywhere and very destructive. Loved seeing him out there. Benjamin St-Juste continues, I think, to grow at the cornerback position. Quan Martin, a guy that they obviously love, played 97% of the snaps. Mike Sainristil, and that was so good to see because I wasn't sure about how much he had played. 49 of the 59 snaps for 83%. So he was out there quite a bit, and they're moving him around. Nickel out wide as a boundary. They're going to keep finding ways to make sure he stays on the field, and I love that. Love the competitive spirit with Mike Sainristil. Dante Fowler Jr. and Deron Payne each played 36 snaps, good for 61%. Love it. I like Deron and John in the 60s. That's where I think they should be. Not in the 70s, but in the 60s. John was in the 50s, and you saw how spry he was in this game. So maybe there's something to that, right? You would love the drop off to not be as significant when those guys leave the game because, you know, for Darian Mathis, I've been really disappointed. He looked like he was flashing in the preseason. I haven't seen anything from him in these games, and I truly do miss John Ridgway because at least John Ridgway had one superpower, one thing you knew he was going to do well, better than most on the team, if not the best on the team. That was stop the run. He's going to eat up blockers, and he was going to be disruptive up front from a blocker perspective, not letting you get to the second level to get to the linebackers, things of that nature, take on double teams and not be moved. We're just not seeing that right now. We're not seeing that. And I know that's not what this scheme calls for, which is why they traded him. Right? They want guys that get up the field, one gap penetrators, et cetera, et cetera. But Michael Walker, Andre Jones, Percy Butler, Javonte John Baptiste, Jamin Davis. You see all the snap counts for those guys. But Johnny Newton, 22 snaps. So I don't even know if that's more than he had last week. Still kind of feels like they're in that same neighborhood. And clearly they're going to take their time with him. But he's not that far away. Allen had 33 and Payne had 36. So he wasn't that far away. But I thought he would be a little bit closer. Noah Igbenogany, 28 snaps. So he didn't play as much as I thought. But he was in on some pivotal downs, like the fourth down. He got beat for the touchdown. It wasn't terrible coverage, but it was a great throw. So it felt like he was out there more. But again, he wasn't out there more than Emmanuel Forbes Jr., who was back from the injury with the thumb surgery. And he played 33 snaps, which is a lot for him coming back. And, didn't do too shabby. We didn't hear his name called all that often. So, all in all, good counts here. Nothing really eye-popping. All of it makes sense. And you want to make sure you keep these guys upright, healthy, and able to produce. So, really proud of this defensive unit in this game. Really, truly am after the performance they just turned in. So, heard from DQ on Victory Monday, Tell the Truth Monday, and he talked about a number of different topics. He started out by talking about some of the guys, the brotherhood, really, right? Guys being excited for the next man more than themselves when plays are being made. He gave some love to the tight end group because they were very active on special teams. Ben Sinnott had a great tackle. Colston Yankoff had a really good tackle, solo tackle on specials. So those were among the guys who stuck out. I remember when he made the tackle during the game live, I was in the mob and I was like, yo, Colston, look at Colston. Look at a Yankoff appearance. He talked about, not allowing the success that this team has enjoyed over the last 3 weeks, the last two in particular, go to their head. And how they can continue to, what they need to do to stay grounded. He brought up, Michael Phelps. They listened to him speak. And they he talked about that level of dedication and sacrifice, which is, what he alluded to, like, hey, it was really cool to see, you don't want turnovers, but what are you going to do when that adversity hits? And I told you, that's one thing about this team that I feel really confident in, is they're going to be able to look adversity in the face and overcome it. And we've seen that in the last 2 weeks against Cincinnati. It doesn't get more adverse than that environment. And speaking of environments, let me give a quick shout out to all the Redskins / Commanders fans, that were in attendance at this game. I've read at least 2 different articles, one on SI that was really jarring, to say the least, that spoke to how dominant of a crowd it was and how we literally took over their stadium. There was a clip I think I seen uploaded by Doc Walker, where we're chanting and we're jumping up and down in the corridor after the game. I mean, we really went in there and showed up and showed out in their building and made it feel like a home game. So much so that Dan Quinn, after the game, acknowledged the crowd and said that they were loud and they felt that energy. And I mean, we saw Jaden Daniels after they scored the touchdown, after he threw the touchdown to Terry, or it might have been the run at the end with Jeremy McNichols. He's running down the sideline, pumping the crowd up. And um, it was a crazy environment to see that many fans. And I told you, on television, you could feel it, you could see it, you could hear it. That was that was different. You know, that was different. And shout out to all of you who went on the mission, got it done, and brought back the dub. Congratulations. But he talked about the presence of the home, the crowd, making it feel like a home game essentially. And he's looking for that same support at home in week 5 versus Cleveland. And I think he's gonna get it, to be honest with you. But we'll see how, you know, that situation plays itself out. He talked about he singled out some guys, talked about them playing really well. Jeremy Chin was one of them. He's like, yo, I was really, you know, pleased to see Jeremy have some opportunities and for him to take advantage of those from a tackling perspective, especially. He talked about them playing faster, which they did. This was by far and away the fastest game defensively we've seen them play. And it was also one of their most physical games as well. I just thought it was well done on the defensive side, and DQ tend to agree. Now, I don't think anybody asked him about the run game, which was a bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, that's the one thing on the defensive side that I still got a ton of questions about at this point. He talked about, you know, Jaden and the offense doing all of these crazy things and all these statistics that are out there. And, you know, he acknowledged it and he's like, yeah, we're aware of all of this stuff for the most part, but you know, we're not going to allow it to change the way we approach. You know, that Dan Quinn, and somebody brought this up. I want to say it was my guy Blackout B brought this up last night. He said, your head coach called your starting quarterback a G. And I was like, did he really? And then I watched the press conference last night and he literally called him a G. Man, we got one of them ones as the head coach, man. This is awesome, right? And he talked about, you know, after watching the film and seeing some of the guys, OZ was a guy, obviously, he was really excited about. Same with Jeremy McNichols. They both, however, picked up unsportsmanlike conduct, personal foul penalties, and to which, and both of them were bogus, right? And I told y'all yesterday, and I don't even know OZ personally. I'm like, that's not even who he is from a character standpoint. Like, he's not this braggadocious, look at me, you know, type of guy where I'm gonna put the ball in your face and let you know I just made a catch on you. Like, that's not even who he is. And DQ said, I'm pretty sure if they knew who they were flagging, they would not have thrown the flag because that's not even his type of thing, you know, party, right? That's not even how he's wired and how he operates. And then he's like, the other one was a Usain Bolt, you know, bow and arrow. And obviously they didn't take too kindly of it. I guess shooting anything of any sort, making the gesture is going to get you flagged. That's what it kind of feels like. But he said they're going to turn those into the league and see what they say. But he's like, look, we got to nip that shit in the bud, though. Even though I don't think either one of them were legit, we got to nip that in the bud. We're not going to allow those things to fester. And then he talked about one of the pre-snap penalties that we had, and that was avoidable too. So you got to make sure you drill them into that kind of stuff so that you don't have those issues and slip-ups during the game. He talked about the growth of the offense, Cliff Kingsbury and the job he's doing, and you know, really spoke about where they are as a team, but understanding that they still got a long ways to go. And so I think he saw a lot of encouraging things. And I said this last week. I said Ben Sinnott is about to get busy here shortly. And DQ literally said they gave Ben Sinnott more snaps this past week. And obviously he was open a couple times last week. And I think they're going to throw him the ball here shortly. That's what I think is going to happen here soon. And we're going to get to see his physicality, his catch radius, his athleticism. All those things are going to be on display here in a bit. I think he's going to get involved. He's one of the few guys offensively that's played a bunch of snaps that hasn't touched the football to date this season. And I think that's going to change against the Browns next week. DQ talked about, I think he talked a little bit more about the brotherhood and, guys playing for one another. I think that's one of the things he, is most, I won't say, that's one of the things I think he really values is guys caring for one another more than they care for themselves and their stats. And when you have selfless players like that, it just makes the whole thing go. And I think that's kind of how he's feeling. And he talked about Zach Ertz loving the tight ends, making plays on special teams, was one of the first guys out to congratulate them. He talked about Jaden Daniels and Bobby Wagner being, among some of the first guys on the sidelines waiting for players as they came off the field, making plays on special teams. So there's a lot to be excited about. Still a lot of work to go, and we'll see how those things get done. And he gave a quick update on the injured players. Allegretti, he said we'll learn more about him later on in the week. Remember, you can now pull your guys off of IR if they were on short-term IR as we're heading now into week 5. And so 2 guys in particular that would be eligible to come off would be the linebacker Jordan McGee and backup quarterback Marcus Mariota. So we'll see. He's like, we're going to continue to monitor those situations. And he's like, everybody's progressing well. We got to see, what those guys look like and how we feel in terms of, activating them. Because if you do that, now somebody's got to go, right? So we'll see what they do there. But he also was not asked, and I wanted somebody to ask him about FA. Like, how close is he to getting back on the field? I think he can help us if he's healthy. So I wanted somebody to ask him that, but they only asked about the obvious names, the Marcus Mariotas, the Jordan McGee's. And so we'll see if they decide to do anything else. But really like where everything's trending right now. So that was DQ in a nutshell. Talking about this past game, some of the standout performances, guys that he, felt good about, things that they need to improve upon. He likes the communication. He likes that the ball was on the ground a few times, but we got to recover. But just, the fact that those opportunities were presented, that's a good thing. We did create a turnover. And he loved the fact that Jaden threw a pick, and he's like, we don't want to turn it over. But I love the fact that the defense had his back, right? Forced the 3 and out immediately thereafter and let him know, hey, it's okay. You good, bro. We got you. And that's the kind of complimentary football that he's looking for. So, there aren't many negatives after you beat a team 42-14. And I've seen it now. Like last week, I said that was us putting the league on notice. Like you weren't paying attention. You were sleeping on us. Last week was us sounding the alarm. Get up. This week, it's more of us staking our claim. Like, not only are we here, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We can't be stopped now. We got Jaden Daniels. That's really what it is. So we'll see if anybody can. But as of right now, doesn't feel like it. And now I'm seeing all the pundits, I'm seeing all the talking heads saying, hey, look out for Washington. There's only one person that I'm riding with 110%. There was others that said, hey, look out for Washington. A lot of people love Jaden Daniels coming out of the draft. So, Kirk Herbstreit was like, yo, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in this draft. Like, telling you right now. Like, there were some that staked their claim on Jaden. But Rich Eisen, man. Rich Eisen is all in. He went lone wolf. Everybody picked Arizona. He picked the Commanders to win. He's all in, and he sees what I see. He sees what we see. I'm loving it, man. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. But let's just continue to ride the wave, right? Just continue to ride. Celebrate! We 3-1 in first place all by our lonesome. We setting all kinds of records, scoring more points than we know what to do with. Just take it all in, man. Enjoy. Damn it. Enjoy. You don't have to worry about Cleveland until Wednesday. Live it up. I put out a Super Friends video. If you like Petty, that's right up your alley. So check it out. Like it. Talk your shit in the comment section. If somebody tries to say something, tell them, hey, stay in your lane. All right? Spoke when spoken to. Okay? Let the winners worry about winning and the losers worry about losing. We winning over here. You don't get any of the winning juice. Save that for the winners. Talk your shit in the comment section. If need be. If not, look, don't go messing with anybody. I don't like picking fights. But once you push me, there's no going back. So we're past the point of return. So you know what it is. Anyway, I digress. You guys, enjoy. Look, here's some homework. I asked you where we are in the NFC. Could we be one of the best teams? 2 of the better teams are playing tonight. Doubleheader. The second game features the undefeated Seattle Seahawks at 3-0, who I don't think are literally a 3-0 team, but that's what their record says. They're taking on the Detroit Lions. We're going to find out a lot about both teams because even Detroit hasn't looked all that impressive to start, but they found ways to win, which is what good teams do, right? But Jared Goff seems like he's regressing. So we'll see. Geno Smith is playing really well. Something's got to give. So you should check that game out. Anyway, enjoy. What are you doing? Why are you still here? Get out of here. Enjoy the win. It's Victory Monday. Celebrate. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, and to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down.